Hello and a very warm welcome to today's special Linkability live stream event when we are going to put the human back into humanity. We are very pleased today to be bringing you a special guest all the way from the USA, Daniel Hall of Spotterpod. Now, many of you will already know Daniel, but he is single-handedly attempting to rid the world of engagement pods. Daniel and I have been friends for several years now when he showed up out of the blue on an audio event of ours and told us all about what he was doing. And I was so taken with it that I have been a firm fan ever since. So we'll be talking to Dan today about what he is doing to help the world put the human back into humanity. Now, we would very much like you to be involved in this conversation as well. So please do add your comments into the comment thread, where we will also be adding links from Daniel that will help you to find out more about his work and also to get a copy of his upcoming book, which he is going to tell us all about today. Now, if you don't know Daniel, let me just tell you a little bit about him. As I say, he's the founder of Spotterpod, and this is an organization dedicated to exposing deceptive practices on social media. He has a background in technology and cybersecurity. He's effectively a geek, and he focuses on uncovering fake engagement, including the use of bots, engagement pods, and AI, sometimes automation as well. And he does that particularly here on LinkedIn. So, as I say, his mission is to put the human back into humanity by promoting authentic interactions over vanity metrics. And we'll be asking Daniel what that all means. Now, his book, which is going to be out just next week, is called The Top 100 List of Lies on Social Media, and in it he delves into how many top influencers that you probably already know and are in your networks have built their followings through misleading and superficial metrics. The book aims to help readers identify and filter out inauthentic content, emphasizing the importance of genuine engagement, which is what it's all about here on LinkedIn. Now, this bit is really super important because beyond his work with Spotterpod, Daniel is the adoptive father of 7. So this highlights his commitment to family and human connections. And we might even see during the course of the next hour the odd visitor from one of his 7 children. He actively shares his insights and experiences on social media because he's aiming to educate all of us about the realities of online engagement and the mental health implications of chasing artificial validation. And that, I think, is something that we all need to be aware of, given how bad it can make us feel when we look at somebody else who seems to be doing hugely successfully. So his goal is to inspire a shift towards authenticity in our digital interactions, ensuring that social media platforms foster genuine human connections. And so I am really thrilled today that as Daniel is joining us to be able to talk about all of these different aspects of engagement pods, AI, automation, and a lot more. Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, thank you, and happy Wednesday. I'm so happy that I remember what day of the week it is. You got that many kids, and it just blurs one into the other. And huge shout out to all the folks that are showing up and taking time out of their lives to make it about us. That is so priceless.
Yes, and so if you have questions for Daniel, please do pop them in the comments. Our team members, Gillian and Cher, are both there, and they can answer any technical questions. I bet Meryl Cass, our super connector, is in there too. He's bound to be in the front row, and he'll be making sure that other people join us throughout the next power, I am certain. Meryl's a great man for making sure that people know about different events that are going on, and we could not do it without him. So thank you, Meryl. Now, if you don't know me, it's all very well me introducing Daniel, but you might never have heard of me either. But my name's Lynnaire Johnston. You can see that on the screen, actually. And I'm the founder of Linkability.biz. So that's a member community for people who want to leverage the power of LinkedIn to achieve their professional goals. So I'm a bit like Dan in that I'm all about authentic relationships and building your network with people who know, like, and trust you. And so, Dan, I think we should start today by talking about your origin story. Tell us how you first decided that the world needed Spotapod.
Well, it was actually our 4-year-old daughter that got me on this mission. She's now 9, so this was 5 years ago, around 2019. She was severely drug and alcohol exposed in utero. She spent 2 weeks in detox after she was born, and within 4.5 months of her life, part of her small intestines had died. Now she's adopted, and so with all that, you get the meltdowns, you get the screamers, you get the temper tantrums. And one day, Lynnaire, she was throwing one of her screamers, and it just went dead silent. Nothing. And my wife and I looked at each other like, where did she go? And she had gone to her room and came back 15 minutes later with this. It's a picture of her and I holding hands. As you can see, Dad was probably a little bit loud that day. A picture is worth 1,000 words. And she was 4, and she knew that I was a little bit loud. But she brought that to me, and she had the crocodile tears in her eyes, and she's like, Daddy, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. And she asked if she could come down and hang it up in my office. And of course, we were both crying a little bit, and I thought to myself, oh my gosh, she is 4 years old, and she gets it. She gets that taking time out of her life to make it about somebody else is so rewarding. So that inspired me to create software that would calculate how much time we were spending together on social media. And as you know, Lynnaire, that's how Peekaboo was born. And as I was calculating all this time that we were spending together, some creators were like 5 hours and 10 hours over the course of a year engaging in other people's content. But I also saw within that time all the AI comments and the bots that were showing up. And then I'm just like, this is not good. I mean, this is why engagement is so down, because the algorithm is taking all this engagement and making it look like this is the social proof. Media outlets were looking at all these posts with all this engagement that was fake. And and I'm thinking to myself, something's got to be done. Or our children, our kids that don't have a chance, they're never going to be seen, loved, heard, and valued for who they are. They're just going to be, oh, you're number 3,942. They're going to be seen as a number, Lynnaire. They're not going to be appreciated. People are not going to appreciate them, for their time. And, if they take 5 or 10 minutes to articulate something, nobody's going to appreciate it. They're going to move on to the next person that can do it quicker. So that's how Spotapod was created. And, just trying to put the human back into humanity for our future generations to have a chance to be seen, loved, heard, and valued.
Well, I'm so pleased that you shared that story with us, because I think it's really interesting to hear from people what really inspired them to go down the track that they're on. And particularly somebody like you who has got such an amazing goal, it's such a big goal to put the human back into humanity. And it's interesting to see where that has taken you. Now, there will be some people who don't know what SpotAPod does, and I think it would be useful for you to explain that to people right now.
Great. The first thing we need to do is probably identify or help people understand what a pod is.
Yeah.
That is, let's say everybody that was on this live stream right now, we got off the live stream and we're going to start like a Discord group, and we're going to share each other's posts, and we're going to ask people, can you like my post or, drop a comment on my post? That is a pod. That's just what's called a manual pod. People liking other people's content, and some of them are good. They're people that have the same niches, whatever. I don't know of the right pronunciation. And so, sometimes people are not in our target niche and other times they are. But then on the flip side of that, I call it the demonic side of pods, or the engagement pods that are automated through AI. And those are people that are not commenting, not reacting, but AI is doing it on their behalf. So what that means is these people or these creators have signed up for these automated platforms. And it's like Ronco. Ronco is a company here in the US where this guy named Ron Popeil, he said, set it and forget it. And that's what they do on these automated pods. They go in, they say they want to automatically engage or automatically comment on other people's posts, and they walk away and AI does it for them. And I can tell when I'm talking too much. So the automated engagement pods is really the crux of why engagement is so low for everybody.
So tell us how that works. Why is all of this? Why are these engagement pods managing to achieve that? Because everybody who is a content creator and listening or watching today will know and have experienced lower reach on their posts in the last 12 months. Now, I think that there's more at play than just engagement pods, but there is no question that they have had a huge negative downward influence. But could you explain how that works and why that has been the result?
So if I put out a post, and the disclaimer I'm going to give you is I'm in thousands of pods, both manual and automated, for one reason, and that is to figure out how everything works. So if I put a post into a pod, and this will help people understand what that means and why it affects engagement, I put that post into a pod and I can select like up to 20 different pods, and there's 400 or 500 people in each one of those pods. One pod could contain 400 to 500 people. So if I'm deploying that to 20, now I have 8,000, 10,000 people I can get that out to that are going to automatically react and comment. And what that means is if they've elected to automatically react, then as soon as my post drops, every 10 to 20 seconds, some random person, they have no idea that they're going to react. They don't know what reaction they're going to use, but it'll just keep going. And you'll see these creators saying, well, if you drop your post at the same time every day, if you schedule your post at the same time every day and you put it into a pod, and then you can watch those reactions come in, and within 30 minutes, you can have hundreds of comments. And so the media outlets look at that as what we call social proof. And on the flip side of that, it's the algorithm is favoring that fake engagement over the people that are genuinely showing up every day and pouring their heart and soul into what they're trying to do. And it's just pushing the rest of the creators that aren't in engagement pods out of the picture. And it's putting those people that are using the fake vanity metrics into our feeds. And that is a huge detriment to the platform. And it just shows, and the fact that LinkedIn keeps allowing that to happen is it's almost like the blue badges have become somewhat of a watermark of deception for some of us. And it's sad because we tend to look up to those people, and people that are just that are new onto the platform. Oh, that's a LinkedIn blue badge. I've got to start following and doing what they say. And that's what the influencers do. And we're getting fed the wrong picture sometimes. Yeah, granted, there are some kind, genuine LinkedIn blue badges out there. And I'm not saying this to bash anybody that's a LinkedIn blue badge. Just in general, that's what I've seen.
Right, that makes sense. And one of the things I think that is happening in terms of the loss of organic reach on our posts, alongside the engagement pods, is that now fewer of our posts are going into the feed. I think it's less than a third of our feed is made up of posts from people like you and I, and other individual creators. The rest of it's commercial content, a lot of LinkedIn content itself, company page adverts, all of that kind of thing. And so when you put those two things together, the engagement pod content taking up a lot of room and less room for the rest of us, then I think that really is a recipe for disaster. And the problem I have with that as a LinkedIn specialist is that it's going to take people away from LinkedIn. They'll start to go, well, my feed's full of rubbish that I don't want to see, a bit like the new standalone video feed, which is also full of rubbish I don't want to see. They will see that and they will go, well, there's just nothing here for me. I'm just going to go somewhere else. I'll go to Threads or Blue Sky or somewhere else that's new and where things are happening differently. And I think that LinkedIn is doing themselves a disservice by allowing this kind of behavior to continue. But it comes back to follow the money. And the more time that people spend on the platform, and clearly that's, and people who are in engagement pods may not be there themselves personally, but it looks like they're there. So the algorithm measures that as being there. Therefore, LinkedIn is able to say, more people are spending more time on LinkedIn, and it's incrementally increasing all the time, which then means money in the bank. So that's how I see that is causing a real issue with the actual the organic reach on our posts. As I say, I think there are other factors in play there as well. But I wanted to ask you about how we can identify people who are in these pods, because I think it's very useful for us to know, to have an idea of how we can spot them and then remove them from our network so we don't have their influence, if you like, fouling up what we're doing ourselves. How do we know who's in one of those, Daniel?
You have to look not only at the numbers and how quickly that they're coming in, but you also have to drill in. I always say the devil's in the details. And what that means is a lot of the posts have just an enormous amount of shares, more than what you and I would ever get, Lynnaire. And what I mean by devil's in the details, if you click on that shares button or that link and you drill down all the way to the bottom, you got to scroll and scroll and scroll and get to the very first few. Most of the time, you'll notice that the first 10 are fake engagement. And that's a sure tell sign that, this post is starting out being shared by fake accounts. Or it's being shared by fake companies. So you just have to drill into like the first 5 or 10 of that. And then you should start seeing the pattern. because looking at all the reactions, the thousands and hundreds of thousands of reactions, it's a monotonous thing. Now, I've written software to be able to look at all those reactions and be able to match it in my Spotify database and see what portion of your feed is drones or bots or people that are gaming the system or have unholy agreements to probably ties to the social media mafia.
All right, so we need to be vigilant about the posts that we are seeing, and we can do that by looking at the shares, or I presume the comments too, at the very end of the list. And I presume that the more recently a post was put up, the fewer comments it will have. So therefore, the faster you'll be able to get to the bottom of that list of comments to see whether those are fake accounts. And would I be right in assuming that you can then look at those accounts and see when they signed up to LinkedIn, or look at the About This profile part of their account and generally judge whether or not that's a fake? Would that be a reasonable way of determining that?
Yeah, and when that Desperate post came out, Lynnaire, I think it was Courtney Summers Myers that did that Desperate post. I was tracking everything on that post, and there are 7 accounts that are no longer on LinkedIn right now. Those accounts were deleted. So, and I'm going to do a post in about a month or so on my final findings on that whole Desperate post. Because I called it out as soon as it dropped and somebody sent it to me, and it was just, the numbers were just unrealistic, and the amount of time in between. The normal person can't see the actual date and timestamps. There's actually an algorithm that you have to use to calculate the time, and it's actually in the link. It's that big long number that's in the link that has the embedded time of when the actual post was dropped. And you can also calculate the amount of the distance between each comment, how many seconds passed. And when you're seeing a pattern of 10 to 20 seconds, that's indicative of a pod. So it's not always easy to spot a pod like that unless you have the software to be able to do that. But generally, drilling into the details.
Right? Yeah. Okay. And so can we also make an educated guess about who these influencers might be who are involved in these large-scale engagement pods by the fact that they've got a huge number of followers? Would that be that that they've amassed very, very quickly? I'm not talking about people who have built these up over a long period of time. We interviewed last year Hannah Morgan, and she had more than 300,000 followers, but she'd brought those people with her from Twitter. And so they had been following her there, moved over to LinkedIn. And so that was a genuine increase or genuine number of followers. But there are an awful lot of people who have 100, 200,000 followers who you look at them and they've only been on LinkedIn 2 or 3 years, and you just wonder how they managed to do that.
That's interesting. You said that. Last year, I made it a point to, I think it was February 13th of 2024, I started tracking a lot of influencers that had been growing at just an alarming rate. Like, we're talking 600-700 followers, connections a day. And a day. And that was, I think, that was eye-opening for a lot of people. And if you go back through, if you search my name on LinkedIn, I'm trying to remember. I'll send you a link to one of them, and I'm going to be dropping one in March. That's, I mean, somebody like Gary V, I would expect maybe 200 to 300 followers a day. But when somebody is amassing 1,000 a day, doing better than Snoop Dogg, That's unrealistic. And they're probably buying followers for cheap from third click farms in third world countries.
So are they buying real profiles or real accounts? Or
They could be real or rented. Rented. You can rent. Yes, you can actually rent out your profile for other people to use.
Okay, I don't think I want to be doing that anytime soon, Jan.
And it's lucrative. It is. Companies are paying you like $20 to $30 a month to use your LinkedIn profile. That's the new oil, so to speak, is you can have people pay you to rent your profile. You can't use your profile, but other people can rent it and use it for engagement.
I can see 1 or 500,000 problems with that particular one, not least being, presumably, that means they can access your account and do whatever they want with it. Would that
Yes, these companies are actually sharing out your LinkedIn cookie. They're borrowing. So when you say you want to you pay for 20 or 30 fake accounts to rent them, they're actually sharing those LinkedIn cookies with those other people so they can use those accounts. And hey, I got Lynnaire's rented account today. Let's see what Lynnaire is going to say about my business. And
yeah,
it's just a whole new level of
unbelievably dangerous, I can imagine. Because once they are in your account, they can change your password, so you've no longer got access to it. And because you've done it voluntarily, I imagine that if you complain to LinkedIn, they would just say, should have been more careful what you did with your account in the first place.
Who wants to complain to LinkedIn and tell them you're using third-party apps or renting your account out for other people to use?
Yeah. I think this is a good time to remind people that if they're using any kind of Chrome extensions that connect to their LinkedIn account, whether that could be anything that's well known, naming no names, or not, it is a problem that could come back to bite you, and you should be very, very careful. Now, Dan, you've been outing some of these high-profile people over the last year. I imagine that they've been thrilled to bits about that.
They've been real what about it?
Been thrilled to hear that you have been calling them out.
They probably don't even know. They probably don't even know. One of the levels of deception that I take is not tagging them. Because as soon as I tag them and they have a link to one of their posts, poof, the link is gone. They take the post out of commission. So I don't tag any creators that I post on there. People just have to either follow the Spotapod hashtag or the Unpod hashtag to get my feed, because I will rarely ever tag somebody. And I've called out some pretty big names. Stars, government officials, CEOs. And I don't just say, hey, you're using a pod. I come with proof. And that proof is what we call a digital receipt. It is all the information from that pod platform that they are on, all the identifying IDs that link that particular post to that particular pod platform at that exact time that it was deployed. So that is 100% proof, and a screenshot of that person being in a pod.
Kieran Turner's put a comment in that I think is really useful for us to draw your attention to if you're watching or listening to this, and that is the approved partners list, because that's one of the problems that I've come across, Dan, is people approaching me to work with them when they have created what I consider to be unethical software or some kind of app that allows them to send thousands of direct messages, for example, to people from your account at a huge rate, so industrial scale we're talking about here.
Yeah.
And in the course of them trying to sell me into this, they've told me that they checked it with LinkedIn and it's all perfectly safe. Now, I've been around a while on LinkedIn now, and I don't believe them. And you can tell me all you like, Mr. Person who is trying to scam me, but I do not believe for a minute that those are part of LinkedIn's, what did Kevin call it, approved partners list. So if you can check, so do check the link that Kevin's put in the comments if you want to find out who really you should be and should not be using. If people are not, or organizations are not on that list, then you could well strike trouble. So thank you for that, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Who always adds value whenever he puts an appearance in. So thank you very much. Dan, I want to move on to your book now. So tell us how your book came about, who's involved, and the story behind it, because it's as fascinating as your origin story about getting started with this in the first place. So tell us about your book. Remind me of the name of it again.
So here you go. This is the proof copy of the top 100 list of lies on social media, with forewords from you, Lynnaire, Neil Velio, Kevin D. Turner, John Asperian, let's see, Sophie Lee. I'm going by name now. I gotta look. Michael Ruglin. There's so many people. Derek Lolly Berte, and I don't have my glasses on. Tony Restel. Okay. So, we go back to this and our daughter and our kids being seen as numbers. That really started the journey. And it started me, on that path of getting onto these automated platforms. But then I started looking at the traffic. What I mean by traffic is I've been writing software since I was 8 years old. I always had a curiosity for like cybersecurity. That really dumbs it down. But seeing what is going from my computer to the web back into my computer, and I can see all this stuff. These automated pod platforms say that your data's secure. Well, they're sending all your data down to my PC when I browse that pod. Oh, okay. So that means everybody that's engaged in that pod, everybody, all the information about the post, everything. So when I started doing that, Lynnaire, I'm like, oh my gosh. There's a CEO here that's been doing this for years and saying that he's authentic. I did say a he. Oh, what the hell? Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO. You said I could name names. Jay Shetty, Vivek Ramaswamy, who is one of our Doge people here in the U.S., the Department of Government Efficiency, the Heritage Foundation. These people are using pods. These organizations are using pods to make it look like social proof. It's a big social spoof. So it begged creating this. And if you're getting this book and being deceived because you're flipping through the pages, okay, where's the list of 100 lies? I don't see the list of 100 lies. I got news for you. I'm pretty sure there's a lot more than 100. So that's really how the book started, and it had to be done. And just you and John and Kevin Turner and just Neil Velio, everybody, you guys were like so inspirational in when we talk about the power of community and people coming together to put the human back in humanity, every time I reached out to you guys came back and I was like, absolutely, there's no question. I want to write a foreword for your book. And I looked at it, and there's 33 up to page 33 is mostly forewords. Other people that have been just talking about Spotapod and how it's impacted their lives. And while it has a lot of lies in it, it screams humanity and community on the other side of that. And it is just, I'm dyslexic, and I was terrified when I started writing this. I thought it sounded like crap. And then I started using not AI to write it, but AI to narrate it. And when I heard what the book sounded like and the way the AI author articulated it, Lynnaire, it's like, oh my gosh, this puts a completely different spin. So if you haven't listened to the audiobook version of this, and it's free until February 21st, you really have to download the audiobook and listen to it. You will not believe that it's AI doing that. The background music.
I thought it was Richard Armitage who was reading it.
Yeah. And
it really was.
Thank you.
Good. I mean, it's really nicely done. But again, I think what you're doing in a number of ways with your book, Dan, is leading the way, because you have made it available free with the audio version of it, and it's been several. I've had it for several months. And not only that, but you've used AI for it, and you have marketed it in a really interesting way on LinkedIn. And I imagine that when it goes live on Amazon next week, that it's going to be an instant bestseller, because people are going to be lining up to buy it, because you've been so smart about the way that you have built the anticipation of it. And
18 months. 18 months. Yeah.
18 months. All right. Most authors, and I include myself among this, have no idea that they should be marketing their book 18 months out from it actually going onto shelves. So hold it up again, Dan, because I think it's really worthwhile people being able to put that.
There's the back of it. We gotta show the back of it, and then we're gonna.
So you know what you're looking for. It's a black and white cover, pretty much. And so when you're going to Amazon next week to get your copy, you know what you are looking for, and it'll be in hardback, paperback, Kindle, and audio. If I missed anything, I think that's about it, isn't it?
That's right. It. And I want to let people know why I did the audiobook first.
Okay.
Because print comes out and it doesn't meet the needs of disabilities, and our kids are disabled. And I wanted to make sure that the accessibility community was met first. They were to be put first, and the audiobook, I wanted to release that and give it away for free for an extended period of time. So those individuals would be able to download it, listen to it, and hopefully not be taken advantage of.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Because I think that most of us don't consider the wider implications of making our content available. And my book's been out now for several years, and if I was doing it again, I would have done it. I would do it in a completely different way. And I would be doing that, starting marketing 18 months out on LinkedIn and making sure that I involve people, because that's another thing that I think that you did very cleverly, and that was involving people like me. So we're invested, right? And so several of the people that you have listed as having written forwards for your book have their own events, like we do. I know Tony Restell does, and I've already seen you on John Asperian. So we've got events where you can be asked to come and speak about it, and then that means more marketing, more promotion, and more people knowing about your book and making sure that the message gets out there. So I think that this is also a lesson in very clever marketing of your book, simply by having so many people who have written forwards for it, because it's really nice. And I can tell you this as someone who has been invited by you to write a forward for the book. It was a real buzz to be invited. I've never been invited to write a forward for a book before. So there we are.
I've never written a book before.
And I think that it's important for people to recognize that something you said earlier about you being dyslexic and still having written a book that everybody who is interested in this topic is going to want to have on their shelves or on their Kindle or on their iPhone so they can listen to it on Spotify. But that's not all. You've done some other clever things too. And I want you to tell us about something that you were mentioning before we came on the call. Well, two things, actually. The first thing is about the SoundCloud. Now, so you created some songs using AI. Was that what you mentioned?
I did. And there's actually, if you want to find me on Google, you just type in Spotapod. But I want to shift real quick to tell you the origin of why it was called Spotapod. So in the U.S. here, we have these portable potties. They're called Spotapods. So I wanted to call out all the crap on LinkedIn. So I was like, all right, we're going to call this Spotapod. So that was the translation. And then as I was doing the book, I mean, I'm really teaching people how to spot a pod. So if you search Spotapod in SoundCloud, you'll find all my music. There's an entire album. It's all AI music. Some of the songs are pretty incredible, and it's hard to tell that they're AI. But I am not just a person that likes to use AI. I really get in and I like to learn about the stuff and how it works before I use AI to do it. A great example of that is there are tracks in there that have reproduced the same instruments as like Hans Zimmer. Hey, buddy.
Hello.
You what?
I need your prayer.
Okay.
We knew that it was likely
it's going to cost you.
We'll be having visitors.
Yes, and a hug.
Oh, look at that. Hello.
Thank you. You say hi to everybody.
Say hi to everybody.
It's up on the kitchen table, okay?
What?
The brick. All right. Give me 5. Love you.
Great, cool shirt. You can't hear me. Lovely shirt.
I'll be right up, buddy. So I have to love the currency that we use is hugs and kisses, and he's 12. And it just
and you're still getting hugs and
I
kisses.
still get hugs and kisses.
Whoa.
When he wants to use my technology, he knows it's going to cost him, and it's a hug and a kiss.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty good currency, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll talk. So there is an album. It's all about engagement pods. It's Spotapod Volume 1. But there's one particular song if people want to check out. It's called Slogans. And it's the brand slogans. It's a mashup of brand slogans from the past 40 years. And the chorus starts out, if a caveman can do it, that's Geico, then I'm loving it. So it's mashing up McDonald's and Geico together, but it just tells a story through brand slogans. And you can't copyright a slogan because they're too short. And you can use a trademark if you're not being derogatory about it. So it was really put a lot of thought behind the song. And it's hysterical. I actually sent it to McManus Wooden, who is the longest running Geico caveman. And he absolutely loved it. And he's like, thank you for not leaving out the caveman, because the caveman was the basis of the song.
I think that's really cool. Meryl, if you're still with us, maybe you could dig up a link to Geico Caveman, because those of us in the Southern Hemisphere have no idea what that might mean. So please do share that in the comments if you would be so kind, so we can all learn a little bit more. Then I want to go on to some questions, and we've got some really good ones here that I want to put on the screen.
Yes to that question. Yes to that question. Yeah.
So there are. It's all platforms.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even Blue Sky.
And, oh, really? And that hasn't been around terribly long, although it is supposed to be doing really well.
There's pods you can join for Blue Sky.
All right. Ariel's asked about the worst hypocrite, top 5 types and individuals, name and shame. Oh, I don't know. That might be putting you on the spot a bit.
Nah, I already named 3 of them. Actually, Vivek is not really a top 5. I'd have to say Matt Gray, Stephen Bartlett, Joshua Miller, Scott Clary, and goodness, it's going to be one other. But yeah, there's 4.
Well, 4 is enough to get us started. So let's see how people really enjoy about whether they're in their networks or whether they're not. And here's something that Sigrid is curious about. Seeing second-degree connections from posts in her feed recently with hundreds of comments. Well, I think the answer to that one might be they could be in a pod. Would you think so?
Well, the scary part of this is if you join an automated pod, if I joined an automated pod today, not only can I unleash that pod onto my post, I can unleash it to any public post on LinkedIn. So Sigrid, I could go in, take one of your posts, put it in a pod, and you wouldn't even know it.
Oh, wow. That's scary.
Yeah, that's how it's done. Chapter 5 of the top 100 list of lies on social media talks about the social media mafia. The big names like Luke Matthews or Laura Acosta or Jasmine Alec, you won't find them in a pod. They can safely say that they're not in pods. Do they go and look for these digital marketers or growth hackers? Yes, because they can pay those growth hackers to put their posts in pods, and they can say, I'm not in a pod. So the social media mafia is real, and if they wanted to target Sigrid, they could very easily do that. It doesn't take that much effort to target somebody for fake engagement and to destroy their brand. In one single post, I can destroy your brand. It's that easy.
That is really scary, which then leads to this question. What's their ultimate goal?
Social proof. Social proof meaning the media is going to look at that engagement. The media looks at the vanity metrics. It's getting thousands and thousands of likes in such a short period of time. That social proof is what they gain. They get that media attention. They get all the attention on socials. And on the flip side, it's just a horrific social spoof because basically humanity is just being played.
I have a sneaking suspicion that if you come across a profile that says, I managed to achieve 10,000 followers in a month, or I can earn you $30,000 a month, or other
it's right there.
of headlines like that sound too good to be true, then in fact they are too good to be true, and that is what is going on. And I went through a list just yesterday of other people who do work similar to me here in New Zealand. And actually that was on the back of a conversation I had with Mick Adam, who's contributed a chapter to your book, where he was telling me about some metrics in Belgium, where he's the head LinkedIn person, in my view, in Belgium. And so I thought, well, I better have a look and see who in New Zealand was doing some work similar to me. And I found that one of those people had been on LinkedIn for a very short period of time and had more than 100,000 followers. And that immediately made me suspicious that this is probably...
And they had already blocked me.
And they've already blocked
I had no idea who the guy was. Well, I figured if people had blocked me, then they're probably...
There'd be a reason.
There'd be a reason. Because I had no idea who this guy was. And I was like, sorry, Lynnaire, he's blocked me. I
can't tell me whether or not it's true, but I tend to suspect that it might be. And so I think that we have to look close to home for some of these perpetrators, shall we call them, because they're not elsewhere necessarily. They're not working in scam farms in Myanmar and other places that are really well beyond our own local borders. They are in our own countries, and in your case, probably in your own state. And we need to be aware of who they are. We can't stop them, but we can make sure that we're alert to that kind of behavior in our own networks and take action to block them. So do you find, Dan, that reporting them to LinkedIn is effective at all? No.
It hasn't been. I mean, I've seen people that I've called out. I called out 2 years ago that are now LinkedIn Blue Badges.
Oh, dear.
And I called them out again, and they're still LinkedIn Blue Badges. So they're not doing anything.
Okay. And just for those who don't know what the Blue Badge is, it's a LinkedIn Top Voice Badge, which is conferred by LinkedIn themselves. You cannot apply for it. It is done the other way around. They confer it on you. You wake up one morning and it is there on your profile. And they usually don't give it to people who like to criticize them. So I won't be expecting one anytime soon.
Me either.
All right. So, Cher, if there are any more questions that you want me to, let me just put up one on from Cher on the screen, and then I'm going to wrap up with one more question for you, Dan. Any specific software to help detect fake accounts? Well, you've given us lots of clues that we can look for today. What about software? Any apps that might help, apart from your own, of course?
Yeah, there's really nothing out there that I know of that will detect it, which is my next project, which is Game of Drones, which is kind of a spin-off of Game of Thrones, because I know heads are going to roll. It's software that I'm building that will allow you to see who's in your feed that's reacting to your content that is in a pod. So my database of about 25,000 pod members will be pushed against your feed. Not really pushed against, but I'll match it up with like your posts and your reactions and who they're coming from, and be able to determine what percentage of like a post has bots or pod members in it. So, which is one step forward. You know, I'd love to work with LinkedIn and help them clean it up, but I doubt that'll ever happen. So this is the next best thing.
Same chance as me getting a Top Voice badge, I think, Daniel. So I think we'll put those off our wish list for now, because I seriously don't think that's going to happen. But David Cause has got one question here. Before we do that, though, can you just tell us when that software, that Game of Drones that you call it, will we be able to buy that at some point ourselves?
You'll probably have to just reach out to me, and I think as I start it on its journey, and I don't need any of your LinkedIn account information. I don't need any of that. It's just I'll reach out, or you can reach out to me, and I'll get your permission to like see who's in your reactions, and basically I'll have the content creator's permission to be able to act on their behalf, but not have their credentials to log into their account or anything. I don't need any of that because all the data is public. So to answer your question, it's coming soon, probably sometime in Q2.
Fabulous. We'll be making sure that we let people know about it when it's available. And finally, from David, pod location and countries. Are they geographically located, or is it possible to say that one country is worse than another?
I tend not to go down that road, because then it would be like I'm collecting geolocated data, which is a huge violation of GDPR.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't worry about any of that. I'm more concerned about who's in a pod and how they're impacting humanity.
All right, and we've been talking about putting the human back into humanity today. So as we wrap up what has been an extremely informative hour, any final thoughts that you would like to leave us with, Dan? Questions that I may not have asked that you think it's important that people know the answers to, or any last words of wisdom for us?
Before each chapter of the book, there's kind of an inspirational section of just quotes, quotes from my family, quotes from other amazing creators on LinkedIn that I've collected over the years. And this book is really not just about lies. If you start reading it, you'll find that it's about community. And the humanity that has gone into this is remarkable. From building connections, people like Lynnaire, nurturing that connection for 2 years to get us to this point where we are today. And when you go and you read this book, I hope you don't make a trip to the ER, because you're going to have to pick your jaw up off the floor when you start reading some of this stuff. And if you think you know about pods and what they are, you probably haven't even scratched the surface.
I think we all have a lot to learn and a lot to watch out for, because I would like to think that the people in my network do believe in putting the human back into humanity, and they do believe in the power of community and building relationships, and that's what they're here on LinkedIn for. They may ultimately have other goals, but to get that, they're here to build those really solid relationships. And in our pre-live chat, Daniel, you mentioned to me yesterday that you'd been stalking me for years before you showed up on my audio event a couple of years ago. And I didn't know anything about you. You knew me quite well, obviously, but I'd obviously passed some kind of a test, but you were new to me. And then from there, we have been in each other's orbit ever since, because I've seen value in what you are doing, because it is important to me that my network does not see those kind of people and that kind of behavior in it. And I think we all need to remember that we need to be vigilant on lots of different levels, definitely on this kind of a level. We need to go back and look at the people who are in our network and showing up with hundreds of thousands of comments and likes and engagement and followers, and really look at what they are doing to see whether they really and truly are being authentic, or they are most likely to be an engagement pod. So I'm so pleased that you've taken the time away from your children tonight, this evening for you, to spend it with us today. Please hold your book up one last time, and we're going to tell everybody that it is available on Amazon next week, and you can get it in hardback, paperback, Kindle, and audio formats. And I will be making sure that one of those wins its way to me too. So, Daniel, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
And thanks again to everybody that's taken time out of their lives to spend it with us. And just to clarify one thing, stalking you is a good thing. It means that you are doing good by your community, and you are helping your tribe to thrive, Lynnaire. And that's why we're talking now. And it's amazing to see incredible humans like you just show up for humanity. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you for stalking me and allowing me to stalk you. And if anyone else wants to stalk Dan, please make sure that you follow him or reach out to connect to him. And the same with me, because you will learn about LinkedIn from me and about bad behavior on social media from Dan. So I really so appreciate you having joined us today. And before I disappear for the rest of this event, I am just wanting to let you know that this is the last official LinkedIn Live we're going to be doing for a little while. We are so enamored of the new, what was called audio format, that we are going to be doubling down on all of our events now, and we are going to be doing them on the new audio format. That means we'll be able to be on camera just like we are today, bring guests onto the stage like we've done today, bring on presentations, have videos and other content, music too. So we'll be doing all of that on our audio events, and we've got one every Thursday in New Zealand, Wednesday for the United States and Canada, at the same time as we've been holding this event today. So we do hope you will join us. We make sure that we put all our replays onto our linkability.biz site, where you can have a look at those or a listen, whichever you prefer, and catch up with all the latest news about LinkedIn and our latest tips and ideas. So you're very welcome to check out the membership side of our site as well. That's absolutely free for 7 days, and you can see everything that we have got there in that period of time and decide whether you want to join our community, because that's where the value is on LinkedIn and on our Linkability site too. So I'm so pleased you joined us today. Thank you for your time. Thank you to our team members, Cher and Jilly, and our connector extraordinaire, Meryl Cass, and for you, the audience members. Thank you for watching. Even if you're watching us on the replay, glad you've spent the time with us today. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week on our audio event, and bye for now.